They're all saving one, or most of the Hampshire fielders are saving one. Somerset need one run. It's Edwards to Hildreth. He's there and bowls Hildreth, and he gets the run away through the onside, and Somerset have won. They've won the Royal London One Day Cup.
Hello there, you're listening to Always Look on the Bright Side of Life. This is the Somerset Cricket Podcast. My name's Ian Shepherd. Joining me this evening, I've got Dan Kingdom, President of Somerset County Cricket Club, Peter Wanless, and the voice of cricket on BBC Radio Somerset, Anthony Gibson. And well, fellas, I suppose the biggest news and the most important news we need to start with this week is the announcement that one of the all-time greats, one of the finest players to ever wear the dragon, James Hildreth, has announced he is retiring at the end of the season, with just a small matter of nearly 18,000 first-class runs to his name, 6,100 List A runs, and 3,906 T20 runs.
Cricket Archive gives it as exactly 18,000.
Oh, right, well, how are we 6 out?
I don't know, but I worked it out. I was on commentary when he scored his 18,000th run and said...
I remember that. Yes, he did get that, didn't he? And he didn't really... It was sort of a muted acknowledgement. I suppose that's what you get for paying your £5 a month for Cricket Archive rather than having to rely on Cricinfo with its increasing... amount of bouncing adverts that seem to bounce you all around the screen. Anyway, we are getting off topic. Whether it's 17,994 runs or an even 18,000, what a career. I mean, you would have seen the most of him, Gibbo. I mean, what are your thoughts on his somewhat not unexpected announcement, but a sad one nonetheless?
It's sad. It's inevitable, but it's still very, very sad. I mean, the magic had gone over the last 3 seasons, really. 2019 it started, and he just hasn't been the same player since, which is a great shame, because he's given me as much pleasure as any Somerset cricketer I've ever watched. You know, the likes of Vivian Richards and Ian Botham and Marcus Trescothick and Jimmy Cook, and all of the rest of them included. He was right up there in that sort of company, and a lovely bloke as well. I mean, one of my fondest memories of him was that game at Worcester back in 2015, when Ross Whiteley was trying to save the game for Worcestershire, and Somerset were pressing really hard for wickets, and Hildreth had damaged his finger, so he wasn't fielding at first slip, he was fielding at square leg. And Ross Whiteley clipped a ball, I think it was from Craig Overton, to Hildreth, low down at square leg. He went down, appeared to catch it. The umpires looked at each other. Whiteley looked at Hildreth and started walking off. And then Hildreth said, "No, I didn't take it cleanly. You should come back." I thought that was real class. That was my golden moment of 2015, because he was a class cricketer and a class bloke. And he'll be very, very sorely missed. And you know, some of the innings that he played almost defied belief, like the famous century with a broken foot against Nottinghamshire. I mean, you know, but yeah, lovely bloke, a very good, brilliant first slip fielder as well. And in his younger days, he was excellent anywhere in the field, and he was still very, very fit. Well, he is still very, very fit, apart from his hamstring trouble. So yeah, he'll be a sad loss, and I do hope they name a stand after him. Peter Wanless, they name a stand after him. You've got the River Stand, which used to be the Trescothick Stand, and it's just aching to be called the Hildreth Stand.
Oh, I think if you take the Trescothick name off it, put the River Stand, and then put Hildreth Stand, it almost devalues it. But let's go for the Somerset Stand, all 5 blocks. The James Hildreth Stampede. Is that what's on the agendas at the board meetings, or are they strictly confidential and it's a wait and see?
I'm sure there'll be significant and purposeful discussion about how to mark Hildy's contribution to the club. I mean, it's a bit early to know quite what is the appropriate choice to make, but he's deeply deserving of something very significant, isn't he? I've written my first ever letter as the president of Somerset to Hildy on the occasion of his retirement. This is only because Dan hasn't worked out my email address yet to be able to send me letters about X, Y, and Z. But really, really important moment, and similar to Gibbo, loads of memories of down the ages of watching Hildy unfurl drives through the covers. My dad died in 2016, but didn't go to cricket for some considerable number of years previous to that. But I remember sitting in the Botham stand with him, watching Hildy score 100. Got no idea which game it was, but he's a sort of bridge across the generations, really, for me. So there's a personal moment of kind of sadness and appreciation, as well as everything that he's delivered for the club. I was trying to work out when I would first have seen him play, and again, I've no real idea, because matches sort of seem to merge into one into the other. But I did find this old scorebook, and for some reason or other, I scored a Tote Sport Division 2 45 over game between Surrey and Somerset at the Oval in 2005, and Hildy 75 not out, and we won by 5 wickets with 6 overs to spare. So that's 15, that's 17 years ago, and he was. So I've certainly seen him over a good number of years, and he's brought great pleasure and success to the club.
Yeah, Hildy got two red. Sorry, frog in my throat. Apologies. That 2 red inkers for Hildy in white ball cricket at the Oval in 2005. Of course, hitting the winning runs in the T20, whatever it was called back then, in 2005. Of course, hitting the winning runs when Somerset last picked up a trophy up at Lords in 2019 in the Royal London One Day Cup, as you probably heard Anthony call in the intro to the podcast. We just desperately need to win another trophy, Gibbo, just so we can refresh our introduction. But yeah, Dan, I mean, what can you say about Hildy? Just an incredible contribution over the years. I mean, what are your fondest memories of Hildy's career?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I didn't actually see any of it, but that century on one leg that he scored against Nottinghamshire, that was obviously absolutely vital in putting us in a position to win that match in 2016. Obviously, ultimately in vain, as we didn't win the championship. And personally as well, his century in the T20 against Glamorgan around 2012, I think it was, when he rescued us from a dead situation. Scored what was at the time, I think, the highest score by number 5 in T20 cricket. And yeah, they almost merged into one, because I've been a Somerset fan for so long. I've probably seen several Hildreth centuries in county championship cricket, one day cricket. There's one against Glamorgan he scored in 2018. Yeah, I mean, obviously he'll always be remembered as someone who unfortunately didn't play for England despite all his talent, which is a great shame. But I think Somerset fans obviously always remember him fondly, and he will go down as one of the all-time greats, I think. While he could be a bit frustrating at times, often, occasionally maybe the architect of his own downfall. He was one of the best, and I was quite emotional really when I saw the tweet saying that he was retiring. I mean, obviously it was completely expected, but yeah, it's a sad day, because he's sort of the one remaining link with sort of pre me being a Somerset fan. He sort of is the one player who's been there such a long time. So yeah, it's a shame. But yeah, I mean, the right time to go, I think. One thing quickly as well, I've found the source of these missing 6 runs.
Oh, I knew you would, Dan. I knew you would.
So yeah, cricket.
It wasn't because he scored the winning runs off a no ball, and somebody recorded it one way and somebody recorded it the other, like we had.
I don't think so. On Cricket Info, he's 6 runs short of 18,000, and he's also 1 not out short as well. From a Search and Cricket archive, there's an innings of 6 not out he had for England Lions against Guyana in 2011, but the Cricket Info version of that scorecard has Andrew Gale scoring those 6 runs. So there's a discrepancy between the scorecards as to who batted. Looking at it, England seem to be looking for quick runs. Keyswetter and Life opened the batting. Stokes batted 3. Bairstow was promoted to 4. I would have thought Hildreth would be seen as a quicker scorer than Andrew Gale. So I'd have thought Cricket Archive would be right, therefore meaning hopefully he is on 18,000 runs.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right.
Yeah, it's a difficult one to... I don't know if we'll ever be able to know for certain what's right. I mean, Hildreth was the captain. You know, we might be able to ask him. It was a very peculiar match. Guyana were brought out for 78, and then England reached 87 for 3, and that was it, because there was a lot of rain around. So...
Any part of the world, Guyana.
It was a... England Lions played in... Sorry, one moment. England Lions played in the West Indies regional 4-day competition. They were literally just played as part of it. Hildreth was the captain. Yeah, this is back when Hildreth was very close to an England call-up. You know, the closest he ever got, I think. Because that following summer, wasn't it? There was a bit of a vacancy at number 6, and they went for Owen Morgan, didn't they? Hildreth and Papara, I think, were the other players in contention. Papara did play a bit that summer as well, so Hildreth must have been so close. And it's a shame. There were years since where I thought, you know, there was 2015 or 16. I think James Vince was picked ahead of Hildreth, and I just thought that was a bit harsh.
He was too self-effacing for his own good. The sort of England setup decided he didn't have enough hunger. You know, he wasn't competitive enough. You know, he wasn't tough enough, and that was absolute rubbish. Because Hildreth is as competitive as any other cricketer I've ever known, but he hides it very well behind that polite, modest exterior. But underneath that, he was hard as nails, and he desperately wanted to get into that England side. And it's a real judgment on the shortcomings of the England selectors that they never gave him the chance. When you consider some of the other ones who did get the chance, I mean, we saw Sam Robson, for example, you know, not a bad player for Middlesex yesterday, and he's played, you know, half a dozen Test matches, and Hildreth is a much better player than Sam Robson. And it was just sad, but that's the way it was. That's the way he was. You know, he wasn't sort of. You know, he's the polar opposite of Kevin Peterson in just about every way. It's James Hildreth.
I suppose he was unfortunate when he was at the peak of his powers. The two guys occupying those positions that he wanted at 4 and 5 were Ian Bell and Kevin Peterson.
Exactly.
Kevin Peterson and Ian Bell putting them at 4 and 5. And England were a bloody good side around the sort of the turn of the 2010s, going up to 2013 when Hildy was really at the peak of his powers, and I think he'd maybe got a little bit too old to really nudge the selectors' pencils, being sort of 33, 34, still carrying on scoring the runs, but perceived to be past it. But
wrong end of the M4. That was his problem. Wrong end of the M4. Especially when more recently, when it was in charge.
More recently, there was this encouragement to move up to number 3, wasn't there? And suggestion there was a vacancy there, and that didn't really work out.
No, that was the beginning of the end, really.
And these are the words I wrote in my welcome for the James Hildreth testimonial game that we organised in 2017. James has been one of Somerset's most consistent performers over his 14 years at Taunton. I don't think I'm alone in saying he can count himself very unlucky to not have received an England call-up. Did someone say unfashionable county? So there we are. I think that
I tell you what I remember most about James Hildreth is that shot he played through the covers when he was. It wasn't a cut and it wasn't a drive. It was as if he was using his bat as a magic wand to spirit the ball away with just a turn of the wrist through the covers. It was a unique Hildreth shot. I've never seen anyone play a shot quite like it, and it sort of encapsulated the fluency and the sheer talent, the ball playing talent of James Hildreth, which you know is quite outstanding, and it got him out a few times as well. but then you know that was always part of the drama of watching James Hildreth bat. You knew he was a nervous starter, but once he got to 20 or 30, he sat back and thought we're really going to enjoy this. And everyone I've ever worked with on commentary has love to watch James Hildreth bat, regardless of partisanship or anything else. He's one of those cricketers that cuts across narrow sort of partisan feelings. It was just a joy to watch.
Yeah, and that's borne out by this. The stats there, Anthony, saying about, once he gets in 4700s and 8150s, that's a hell of a conversion rate.
Absolutely.
That's if Crickinfo's right. It might be 2500s and 142.50. Well, I'm taking Crickinfo's read that those are Hildy's.
Well, I suggest you pay your £5 a month to Cricket Archive and get a decent cricket stats site.
Point taken, Anthony. Point taken. I'm writing it down right now. Yeah. We could sit and talk about James Hildreth all night. I mean, he's going to be a hole there at number 4 that we haven't seen for the best part of 20 years. Fabulous player, incredibly fluent to watch. I've met him a couple of times down at the benefit game we did. A lovely guy, really polite, really charming, as you say, completely self-effacing, but you don't score, the best part of nearly 30,000 runs over a 20-year career without having a bit of fire in your belly. And as you said, Gibbo, because he's not like a Bairstow or a Stokes and beating his chest and pumping his fists, doesn't mean that fire's not there. But it's a fire that unfortunately will sadly no longer be at the county ground as of next year. But congratulations to Hildy on a magnificent career, and let's hope in some way, shape or form it can be ended on a high. I'm sure whether he's in the side or not, he'll get a standing ovation like Trez did at the end of that 2019 season. Well, shall we deal with another departee this week? Someone who's possibly not going to have a stand named after him. We'll deal with the ins and outs before we start talking about cricket. Boy, Marchant de Lange is off to Gloucestershire at the end of this year on a 3-year deal. I was surprised that Gloucestershire offered him a 3-year deal, a pace bowler on the wrong side of 30, but I think that was probably what would have swayed it, because I don't know whether we'd want to keep him on or not. I think he's a useful player to have in your squad at your disposal. He can, on his day, with both red or white ball, he can potentially be a match winner, but I suspect he may have got a little bit bored kicking his heels in the second team, wants to play first team cricket, and the lure of a 3-year deal from Steve Snell up at Neville Road, or the Unique Seat Stadium, whatever it's called these days, proved too irresistible for him, Peter. Were you involved in any of the negotiations, by the way? Sorry,
no, of course not. Nothing whatsoever to do with me. And he's going as he's not an overseas player
right. He's not
anymore, is he? So
that would have been obviously applicable to us as well, not being an overseas.
Someone said Gloucester's best signing since Jerome Taylor.
Might have been Dan, not sure.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure he'll enjoy the pitch at Bristol very much, though. Trying to flog some life out of that strip, that'll test even Marchant de Lange. Yeah, I'm sorry to see him go in many ways, because he's such a lovely bloke. And he did, it does have the X factor. When he really bent his back, he could be seriously quick. And we all like to see a seriously fast bowler with his tail up and breathing fire. And, such a lovely bloke as well. So I hope he does well at Gloucestershire, except against Somerset, of course.
You got a pigeon in your garden that agrees with you there, Gibbo. I mean, we obviously signed him down as a replacement for Jamie Overton a couple of years ago, but he's not really nailed down a place in the particularly in the red ball side, and not surprising to see him go, is it?
Yeah, I mean, the writing was on the wall when we signed Peter Siddle for this season. Unfortunately, he didn't really meet expectations last year, did he? But it's interesting. He obviously wants to carry on playing red ball cricket, because I thought maybe he would just look to become a T20 specialist, but he's obviously still got ambitions on that side of the game, and maybe I think it's the security as well of having that 3-year contract, because obviously the franchise is there year to year, aren't they? You don't get much security with that, but I think he can obviously. I'm thinking of being interrupted by a bird here. Obviously, he obviously lives in the area, and it obviously just gives him security for a few years to play in Bristol. He doesn't have to rely on, insecure franchise contracts in winters to make a living. Yeah, I mean, I wish him well. It'll be interesting to see if he plays against Gloucestershire in our next championship match. I mean, he might be helping to consign his own team for next year to relegation. Which is
if he performs like Tom Kohler-Campbell did for Yorkshire, I'm all for that. So got no problems with that at all.
Yeah.
So farewell, Marchant de Lange. It was short and I suppose occasionally sweet. There's some probably the best memories you've got of Marchant with a bat.
His biggest contribution was the 50 that he made at the Oval in the first game of last season when he and Jack Leach put on 89 for the last wicket, and when Somerset were staring defeat in the face. And that started the turnaround in that game, which ended up with Somerset winning one of the more unlikely victories I've seen. So, but his batting after that really went downhill until it became, on commentary I would always say, well, you've got Marchant de Lange coming in now. It'll be a case of block, 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 swipe.
Yeah.
If the swipe came off, it went a mile, but all too often it ended up with his stumps in disarray.
I think my lasting memory of Marchant de Lange's time at Taunton will be him sticking Kyle Abbott into the Churchyard second ball against Hampshire. And that was a beautifully timed lofted off drive, and it sailed.
And what happened next?
Well, I think he smeared the next one over cow corner, so it may have been the ball after that he had all three stumps uprooted by his fellow South African. But that.
He was briefly on for one of the fastest 50s ever, I think, in that innings. Just very briefly, I got a little bit excited when he was on like 15 off 3 or something, something like that.
Well, I had him in my fantasy league, not fantasy league, but the old competition that the club run at the start of the season for most championship sixes. So I think I've lost that one. I've lost that one unless he rocks up in the last few games, which he may well do. Obviously, Peter Siddle will be going back down under, and he may not feature again in the Royal London One Day Cup campaign. See, that was a segue that a proper radio presenter would be proud of, Anthony. So, Royal London One Day Cup. 3 more losses in the so-called development competition, but a few more highlights, and I think I'm not feeling as depressed as I was this time last week. 3 defeats, 2 fairly close defeats, 3 great performances from Ben Green, James Rue and Matt Renshaw. And let's start with Ben Green. The second best List A innings ever played by a Somerset player. The first one was being Roloff van der Merwe's 106 yards to beat Surrey a few years back. That game.
Well, if he hadn't got out to the second ball of the last over, if he'd gone on to win the game for Somerset, that would have eclipsed Roloff van der Merwe.
This would no longer be the Roloff van der Merwe Pavilion. It would be the greenhouse. It was this close to being renamed.
Yeah,
but
I was looking at the stats after 40 overs. Somerset were 220 for 8, needing another 123, and Ben Green was 55 in 47 balls because he'd been picking up some big shots. So in the next 10 overs, he added 102 from 37 balls. I mean, it was just phenomenal hitting, and my heart bled for him. At the end, when I came to interview him at the end, he looked absolutely shattered. Having tried so hard and come so close, and then just not quite getting hold of that hit down the ground and being brilliantly caught. It has to be said, down at long on. It was such a cruel blow, but it was a magnificent innings. But it was, it shone out like a good deed in a naughty world. The rest of the performance was frankly not very good. Although Alfie Ogborn, three not out of what three rather.
Three out of partnership of, I don't know, whatever it was, 97, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
he must have been,
Alfie Ogborn.
He must have been given permission to play that lap shot by his skipper at the other end. There's no way he would have done that off his own back.
Exactly, yeah.
But yeah, to come so close as well, losing that high scoring game by 9 runs, especially being captain as well, and it's one of those where you're not going to get to sleep till about 3 o'clock in the morning, just thinking, what could we have done differently? Should I just bunted that one into a gap and chased 2? Should I have told Alfie to play that shot? Should I have done this? Should I have done that? And really, yeah, to come so close must have been just absolutely heartbreaking. I just remember watching, I was thinking, and then just, you know, it just, your pity your stomach just sinks after having your hopes raised. Was that the 24 off the Borthwick over, and then 24 off the Gibson over, 4 consecutive sixes, the over after the next over, after that hitting into the short boundary towards the on Dartshire stand. I mean, were you there? You weren't at that one there, Pete. Were you there, Dan, for that one?
I was, yeah. I said sort of when we lost maybe our 8th wicket, you know, this is over unless Ben Green plays the innings of his life, and he actually did play the absolute innings of his life. Unfortunately, we didn't get over the line, and it was absolutely gutting. He was straight away bending down on his haunches. He was absolutely devastated, wasn't he, when he got out? But yeah, what a display of hitting! 10 fours and 12 sixes. It just felt like everything was going. You know, at one point he hit 4 sixes off the first 4 balls of an over. You know, he was on for 6 sixes. Only 10 men have ever done that before in professional cricket. And also we had 3 chances to hit 2 sixes because one of them was a free hit as well. But it's just an unbelievable innings to see us back from the dead. I mean, it would have been one of the best comebacks of all time in this day cricket, I think, to bring us from 195 to 8 to potentially chasing down 340. So yeah, it was agony in the end. I thought he dropped it for a minute, that final catch. But yeah, shame.
As regular listeners to the podcast will know, I'd seen Ben Green play that innings 3 or 4 times in my championship-winning season on the computer game International Cricket Captain. So it wasn't a surprise in that respect, but it was a complete surprise in real life. You know, I'd been working all day and had checked the score, and we were 7 or 8 wickets down, and I'd written it off and couldn't quite believe it when I saw the final scorecard. So yeah, what an incredible inning.
Yeah, I mean, the other big performance in that game was, of course, Sonny Baker, back from injury, taking 6 for 46 from his allotted 10 overs. Great to see him performing again, especially after the hiding he got against Notts, going for, was it 38 in 1.5 overs, something like that. So I thought he bowled really well that day. I don't think I remember him bowling a loose ball or a bad ball in that spell, Gibbo. He was just on the money, and
he was full, straight, and fast, and and as you say, he hardly bowled a bad ball. And I talked to him afterwards as well, and he's a mature, intelligent young man. Is Sonny Baker, and he's very honest about himself as well. He said he referenced what happened against Notts, and said that he really got it together in that innings against Durham, and he did get it together. And I thought he bowled pretty well yesterday against Middlesex. Well, not as well. There were a few bowled too short at times, which is always a temptation. But I think he's the real deal. I think Sonny Baker, and I think Alfie Ogborn is as well, who made his debut in that game against Durham, and bowled very well up at Leicester on Friday. And I thought bowled as well as anyone. I thought he was the standout bowler against Middlesex yesterday.
I bumped into his dad in Stragglers, and I got chatting to him while we were waiting for our coffees to be prepared. He said that sort of at the end of last season, he'd kind of been written off by Somerset. They were saying that he wasn't quick enough, and they weren't going to get him back on the academy books. So he went over to Australia last winter, and he's come back and he's filled out a bit. He's put on a yard or two of pace, and he's taken a lot of wickets in the second team, and Somerset have come back and offered him his chance in the Royal London One Day Cup, and Alfie's father Mark was as proud as punch about the performances that his lad Alfie had put on.
So he should be.
Games, yeah, and just goes to show that there is always a route. Just look at Andy Umeed and players like that, and the fellow Richard Gleeson as well. Was thinking about leaving the game as well. So it's good to see. Good to see you don't have to be totally on the academy's books from when you're in nappies all the way up through to second team cricket. That you can come back.
What I like about Alfie Ogborn is he bowls over the wicket, left arm over the wicket. So he's angling it across the right-handed batsman, which I think is the way to go. There are so many left-armers now who bowl go around the wicket to bring it back in and then hope to move it away off the seam. Whereas, talking to Mark Davis, who obviously used to bowl left-arm fast for Somerset back in the 1980s, that was his stock delivery, was across the batsman, and then every so often he'd get one to come back. And the fact that he could get that one to come back meant that the batsman could not afford to leave a ball that was coming down on off stump, thinking, it's going to fly away towards the slips and I don't need to play at it, because there was always that danger it'll cut back in and pin you LBW. And Alfie Ogborn does that, I think, really, really, really well. So that even though he doesn't have that extra edge of pace, and hopefully he'll get quicker as he gets bigger and older, but I think he's got a good head on his shoulders and he's bowling intelligently to his strengths, and I think that's shown in the 3 performances he's put in.
Speaking of players who have got who are wise beyond their years, should we nip ahead to? No, let's keep it in order. Let's talk about the Middlesex game, yesterday's game against Middlesex. After we deal with what was a pretty disappointing performance up at the Uptown Steel County Ground. Somerset coming out the wrong end of that by 45 runs, but a great opening spell from Casey Aldridge, Pete, which I gather you were there for.
Yeah. Yes, he did bowl well, and I agree Ogborn bowled well, but to be honest, the whole day was underwhelming in every respect. Really, I'd never been to Grace Road before, Upton and Steel, whatever. So that was nice to add a ground to the list of places that I'd visited. But beyond that, we were never really in the game. We let them. Well, I suppose for a brief spell at the start of the match we were, but then we let them get away. Kimber got his head down and then kind of got going, and we've just batted with such extreme caution that we never felt in it. So very much sort of second best and quite disappointing, really. So I think we should move swiftly on.
Yeah, 4 for 67 in the 19th over. They finished up with 269. Century for Lewis Kimber, 70 for Harry Swindles.
To be fair, we did get I thought it was a good toss to win, and Ned Eckersley, who was commentating with me from ex-Durham and ex-Leicestershire, he thought it was a good toss to win as well, because we thought, if it was going to do anything, it would do something in the first hour, and it did. And it was a blazingly hot day, and the pitch was quite green. They'd obviously watered it, and Casey Aldridge bowled really, really well on it and picked up those early wickets. But then it flattened out for the rest of the Leicestershire innings, and then when we came to bat, it had sort of gone over and it had got slow and there was variable bounce. And I agree with Peter, the batting was timid, frankly. They didn't try and challenge the bowlers at all, and that allowed the bowlers to get on top. But the wicket really didn't help. But it was a very, very disappointing batting performance. They'd overreacted, against Nottinghamshire. They went too hard, too early, and lost wickets. So they decided, right, we're gonna build a platform and then go on from there. But they didn't build much of a platform because they lost a couple of early wickets. And then when they tried to go on, they got themselves out. And it was, I interviewed Andy Hurry afterwards. and which I didn't much enjoy. I have to say, I'd much rather Somerset do well, and then we can have a sort of triumphal interview afterwards with some player who scored 100 or got 5 wickets, or a coach who's beaming with pleasure at seeing his bringing home the bacon again. But it was a very disappointing performance, and in the light of that, I thought the performance against Middlesex, was a huge relief, and I agree. That's why we're all feeling a bit better. I think. Because against a very good side, we fought back well, and the youngest Somerset side ever to take the field in senior cricket, and we made them fight to the very last, almost certainly the very last over, not quite the very last ball. But
you've ruined my intro to the Middlesex game. I had it all planned out. I was going to say it was family fun day. Kids welcome at the Cooper Associates County Ground, and the youngest ever Somerset side that we think had a lot of fun, in particularly 18-year-old James Root, who I thought batted absolutely brilliant yesterday. In searing heat, it was just,
He plays to his strengths, doesn't he? He plays. I'm surprised we didn't get more reverse sweeps from him, because he plays that shot very well. But that apart, I think he's a bit like James Hildreth in that respect, and Tom Abel as well. They know their game and they play to it. They don't try to become batsmen that they're not. They don't become sloggers or anything like that. He didn't play a single slog, James Root, in that century, and I'm very impressed with him. He's got a very good head on his shoulders, and I think he's obviously on the England radar, and he'll go a long way, and he probably may not even play very much for Somerset in the years ahead, because he'll be in representative cricket. But it was a very, very impressive performance.
Yeah, James.
What do you think about the batting order? I mean, it was a surprise to see him coming in as an opener, and then he did really well. And I've always wondered how many more runs Tom Lammonby might be scoring for us if he wasn't opening but was coming in at 5 or 6, and slightly nervous that James Root batted so well that he'll have played himself into opening the batting for us, as well as keeping wicket and doing everything else, becoming the sort of second Tom Abel. We don't want to put too much on his shoulders too quickly, I guess. That's my only fear, but I agree, what a fantastic innings, what a start to his career.
Yeah, I mean, it felt like it's taken us 4 or 5 games to work out what our best batting order is.
Well, you say that, but why didn't Ben Green come in a bit earlier on?
I tweeted about that several times. That was what lost us the game, in my opinion. Ben Green should have come in when Bartlett came in. Bartlett, I mean, he can, against Leicestershire last year, he scored an amazing century, and he smacked at 80 odd against Sri Lanka Development 11 earlier this year. But Ben Green, a few days ago, played the innings of his life, hitting 10 fours and 12 sixes, with a strike rate of nearly 186, and yet with 10 overs to go, he did not come in, which I just thought was an inexplicable decision, really, and that meant we left at least 20 runs out there.
Bartlett was out the last ball of the 48th over, so... No, sorry, Brew was out 45th, so he had 5 overs at the end, where he's just got 157 off 80-odd balls. You think, we want to give you it, maybe not coming in at 3 and trying to bat for 40 overs, but you certainly want to be giving yourself at least 15.
Yeah,
exactly. And Bartlett is out of form. I mean, he's a fine player, but up at Leicester, Peter would have seen him. He really struggled. You could see the frustration. He was waving his bat. He was beating it against his pads, and it was the same against Middlesex yesterday. He knew he was trying his hardest, but he just wasn't timing it, and it was a serious tactical error not to promote for Ben not to promote himself in the order.
Yeah, Bartlett did get to 25 off 24 balls, but coming in towards the back end of a one-day innings, that's not. That's not a high enough strike rate. Roos was 114 off 120 balls, 9 fours, no sixes. But I just thought he just kept his shape really well. As you said, he played within himself, played the shots that he can play, and he just accumulated really nicely through the whole of the 45 overs he was out there. And he played that sort of old school list A innings that an opener plays, where you bat. I'm going to bat for 50 overs. Everybody else is going to bat around me. And Matt Renshaw did that pretty well as well. He made 120. 9 fours and 3 sixes in that one. A lovely one into the River Tone. Another one to the car park of the Flats. As you said, Dan, he's been batting 4 for Queensland, and he looked much more at home down the order.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean the 50 against Leicestershire as well was also down at 4, wasn't it? We seem to be getting closer to our best batting lineup. I still don't know about Goldsworthy at 3 though. I mean, he had 60 against Gloucestershire at Bristol, but apart from that, he's not looked comfortable there. He's just sort of like yesterday in Leicester, he started slowly and then got out, didn't go on. He looked a lot more comfortable and natural at 5 last year. You know, he was more just this year he seems to have some shackles on for some reason. You know, last year he was much more free, rotated the strike a lot better, I think, and found it easier to find the boundary. I don't know if it's just a form thing. It might be nothing to do with his batting order position, but we should have kept him at 5 or 4, I think, because that's where we had so much success last year. He was probably our best batter in this tournament last year. So
he's been striking at about 50%, 50 per 100 balls, which is...
Is it really?
Well, in the last 3, 27 off 49 against Durham, 9 off 24 against Leicestershire, and then on Sunday he was 9 off 17. So, and that's nowhere near quick enough in the sort of the modern one-day game, even if you are looking to play that long innings and kind of anchor it as well. So. Yeah, I mean that just comes from not being able to turn the strike round.
Yeah, exactly. We're not very good at rotating the strike. We really aren't. James Root did it pretty well yesterday, I thought, but George Bartlett was hitting shot after shot. You know, some of them quite well timed, but hitting them straight to fielders.
And that was especially frustrating at Leicester. I mean, it's easy to watch from the sidelines, isn't it? But that is a massive playing surface, and you just felt like there was so many gaps in the field, and yet, as you say, these shots were just going straight to the fielders again and again. It was annoying. Yeah, as annoying to them, I'm sure, as it was to me.
Yeah, I didn't actually see much of the game at all yesterday. The most I saw was when I got home and finished watching the end of the live stream, because I got there about 11 o'clock. Managed to invent a space in the Viridor car park somehow. Not quite sure how I'd managed to just park it next to something and hope nobody gave us a ticket. But so literally spent the first hour of the game wandering around with the kids around all the various attractions there. I saw an armadillo. They're quick little things.
Did you milk the cow?
No, Theo milked the cow. I think he got 650 millilitres. And I got an inbox full of offers from Jurassic Fibre. So he had to go on all the other. He had to go on all the other stuff. Did the circus skills. Really good work by the club getting that put on for all the kids. But just a bit difficult when Dad wants to find a seat to watch the cricket for a bit.
It was a great atmosphere, though, wasn't it? It was a great day's cricket yesterday. I thought, and it was the real answer to those people who say that the Royal London Cup was a second-class competition. Nobody wants to go and watch it. But not every county does it as well as Somerset. I mean, there were barely 1,000 people there at Grace Road, Leicester, on Saturday, and admittedly it was Friday. It was a very, very hot day. But even so, there was no atmosphere at all. And there were almost as many Somerset supporters there as there were Leicester ones. But yesterday, the Middlesex game, I thought was just a fantastic cricket occasion, and very well staged by the club, and the cricket lived up to the weather and the atmosphere and everything else, and it was great.
Yeah, they did. They had there was a couple of poor stewards whose job it was to just keep going to this outside tap and keep filling up these jugs of water for people to keep topping up their water bottles. They didn't have a proper water fountain. Maybe that's going to be put in sometime soon. But this poor bloke, he was. And then he worked out that if he moved his little gazebo next to the tap, he didn't keep having to run back and forwards next to his barrel, and he was in the shade a bit more. So well done to that last year. But yeah. Did you go on the milk a cow, Dan?
No, I was too enthralled by the cricket, unfortunately.
Oh well, you probably found a seat in the shade in Tres Lower, and
I did.
Yeah, I don't think anybody was in the mood for giving up their shady seats in that morning. It was absolutely roasting, and I was sweating from places I didn't know I could sweat from.
I think that's too much information.
Well, definitely was. Right, so yeah, so rock bottom of Group A, they're all under One Day Cup. I don't think we can't mathematically qualify now unless about 3 or 4 counties do a Durham and manage to get themselves dock points, and there's all sorts of mass brawls and that sort of thing and match fixing going on in the other games, but that really is clutching at straws. Final 3 games then. Surrey away on Wednesday, then it's the Beer Festival at the Cooper Associates County Ground on Friday, before we finish off on an outground trip at Portland Road away to Warwickshire next Tuesday. What do we think?
It's not Portland Road.
Oh, is it not?
It's Edgbaston.
Oh, it's Edgbaston, is it?
I just thought, oh my God, no.
Well, I went from my cricket a wall chart. So
yeah, there was some confusion about Warwickshire's home 50 over matches when the fixtures were released. I think quite a few places said Portland Road, which is the Edgbaston Foundation ground, which is also in Birmingham. It's not very far from the actual Edgbaston, but yeah, they're all at Edgbaston. All of Warwickshire's home 50 over games.
Oh, that'll presumably that we covered in
we ought to
100
beat Surrey at the Oval. I've just been looking through the Surrey team, and there were 4 or 5 who I'd never even heard of. In that side,
hit by the 100, and also injuries and personal problems and all sorts.
I mean, I think their average age is probably lower even than ours. Ben Geddes, the skipper's only 21. So it's it really is an opportunity to put one over Surrey at the Oval. I think Sussex is going to be quite tough. They look pretty good at the moment, and Warwickshire at Edgbaston are always difficult opponents.
Yeah,
so
not Portland Road. Written down a few hundred signs if you're there.
I really hope they win at least one, so that poor old Ben Green, who has tried so hard, doesn't have a complete whitewash to explain away.
Well, we'll obviously give a post-mortem to the Royal London One Day Cup campaign once it's concluded next week, but the last 2 defeats, certainly the Middlesex defeat. We're talking about fine margins. You talk about the first ball that Sonny Baker bowled in that last over, that waist high full toss gets put away for 1, that's 3, and then the free hit goes for 6. I think what did that take the target from 19 down to 10, something like that. So yeah, fine margins there, really, isn't it? And I think overall as a group we're seeing enough positive things coming from this campaign to I don't really want to say outweigh the negatives, because we've lost 6 out of 6, but the pickings are there, and they're not necessarily slim. They're sort of medium fat pickings, if you like.
They're only 5 out of 5. It's not 6 out of 6.
No, 6 out of 6, isn't it?
Yeah, it's 5.
Oh, 5, isn't it? Oh, do you know what? I was thinking. I was counting the Devon game, because I just remember we talked about 3 games in the podcast last week.
Well, we won the Devon game.
All right, okay. There we go. There we won the Devon game, and we beat Cornwall as well.
Although overall, including going back to last season, we have now lost 8 List A games in a row, which first time that's happened since 1970-71, and the record is 9 in a row, which was that same run of games. So yeah, 2 more losses, and we will break our own record.
Oh, great stuff. Well.
I doubt
there'll be a plaque for that at the members' dinner, which the club's publicised today. That's on the 30th of September, the Friday after the season concludes.
With a nice discount for members.
Yeah, tickets are much more reasonably priced, £50 each this year, down from 90 they were last year. See, Dan, I'm not just you that can write emails. So get your tickets for that. I've got mine. I'm taking my wife, but she doesn't know yet. But she's going, so I'm sure I'll see you there. Pete, can we just pop all the drinks on your tab? Is that okay?
I will be there.
Absolutely, he's got to be on the phone. Just sit me as far away from that idiot Sheffield as you can. But anyway, of course we won't be abusing your presidential tab, Peter.
There ought to be some President's Award for something or other. I need to go and do a bit of research and find out if I have any opportunities to influence any of this.
Yeah.
Well, there's a Members Player of the Year, isn't there? They're not quite as in depth as the Golden Apples. We really get We really go granular for the Golden Apples. We get, best post-lunch spell in August and all that sort of thing. We get really detailed for that. But looking for, there's only about 3 they do. I think they do Player of the Year, Young Player of the Year, and there's one other, I think. Maybe White Player of the Year, White Ball Player of the Year. I'll have to check. Done no research. Right, so what else we got? There's a members forum. That's going to be on the 24th of August. That's going to be held virtually between 7 and 8, which is a lot more friendly than when Lancashire are going to be holding theirs. I don't know if you've seen that. So it was
Monday morning, isn't it?
Yeah, the Tuesday at 9 a.m. the day after the bank holiday weekend, which is that's in response to the Lancs Action Group, wanting to get themselves in front of the board at the club and just say, look, we're opposing any reduction to first class cricket. Any plans that the ECB might have, we'd like you to vote against them. And Lancashire have gone, okay, then we'll have a big meeting, and that meeting 9 a.m. at Old Trafford on Tuesday the 30th of August. They're almost trying to out Yorkshire, aren't they, doing that? Just absolutely toned up. There's no other explanation than they just don't want people to come, really. Also, bearing in mind that they could have a Royal London semi-final that day too.
Yes.
Happy days. Just one last thing on the Royal London One Day Cup then. Do we think Steve Davis may have possibly played his last game for Somerset?
Well, the awkward thing is obviously... that's the awkward thing. He's got another year left.
He has got another year on his contract, but if James Root next year is probably going to be too early for him to start getting poached by England, and you think he'd be given the gloves in the Championship?
Yeah, he might get snapped. He might get snapped up for the 100 though, which would mean that Steve Davis, or he might get injured, or Steve Davis might rediscover some form. We
hope so. Yes, don't really want to go writing guys off, but I mean, as we've sort of seen with Hildreth, once it starts to go, it's very difficult to get it back. But but that was a very lazy shot he played there. First ball up at Leicester, just that little waft outside the off stump and bowled off the inside edge. It was a real. So, Christ, you must be in bad nick if you are playing like that. What else we got to chat for? Shall we dive over to our listeners' questions then and see what we got? We've got 9 minutes to get through these. Then we'll try and be quick. Keep it under an hour for you all. Here we go then. First question is from... Ben Green was off for most of the Middlesex innings yesterday. Anybody know what happened to him? Quite a few people have asked that one. Anthony's gone off to shoe a pigeon.
Yeah, he suddenly disappeared, and I noticed that, hang on, Matt Renshaw's directing the field here. So, clearly he was the designated vice captain.
Gibbo's gone off to get another pint of cider. Gibbo, do you know what happened to Ben Green yesterday?
No, I don't, and I couldn't very well ask James Rue, but I did. He came out before James actually at the end to sign autographs, and he was limping. So, wouldn't surprise me if he's not fit to play against Surrey on Wednesday. So I honestly don't know. But it didn't look good.
Fair enough. One from, oh my God, what's this guy called? The Honourable Colonel Queen's Armchair Warrior Regime. Fair enough. In the continual absence of Leach, do we need a decent spinner to bowl in the middle innings of the Royal London One Day Cup and September's County Championship matches?
Preferably not a slow left armour. I think he added, didn't he?
Yes, he did. Yeah, given we've got a phalanx of slow left armours. Obviously we got Amar Verdi on loan for the Lancashire game. It's entirely possible that we could get him back on loan for some of the...
Honestly, it wasn't very impressive. Pete, were you there, Peter?
I was, yeah. I agree. There wasn't a lot to see there.
He was comprehensively outbowled by the young Lancastrian slow left armour. He didn't look like taking wickets at all. Not the bowler he was 2 or 3, back in 2019, 2018. Not the bowler he was then. And there are hardly any decent off spinners around the country.
No, Surrey haven't been playing Verdi or Moriarty, have they? Maybe we could try Moriarty.
Not a bad
he's slow left arm there. There's another one. Yeah. Josh Thomas. I was disappointed Josh Thomas wasn't given a bit more of a bowl yesterday.
Did he bowl at all yesterday?
Yeah, he bowled a couple of overs. 2, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I must have missed that one. 2 overs done for 12. Yeah, I like Josh Thomas. He's got a good action. He really gets over his front foot, and he really gives it a good rhythm, and looks to put a lot of action on the ball. More about Ben Green. Bryn Thompson is going to buy us all a cider if we're there on Friday night. Looking forward to it, Bryn. We'll see you there for the beer festival against Sussex. One from Andy Cleve. Should players not featuring for their respective Chris Packet franchises, for example, Tom Lammonby, be released to play for their counties in the One Day Cup?
They should. It's yeah. I mean, it can only benefit them. I mean, I know 50 over cricket is not really perfect preparation for the 100, but it's better than not playing at all. I'm not sure. Last year, obviously, there was COVID, so COVID bubbles and stuff, so they couldn't. But this year, I thought maybe there'd be a bit of flexibility around that. No, there hasn't been, unfortunately. I mean, there was a bit. I mean, Rory Burns was made available to Surrey for the whole tournament, as was Dom Sibley for Warwickshire. Although Burns hasn't actually been picked for Surrey, I'm not sure why. So clearly, there's a bit of flexibility in terms of the whole tournament, but for like the odd match, it seems to not be a consideration at the moment, which, a bit odd. I mean, because Lammonby might go a whole month without playing any cricket, which isn't going to benefit him or anyone. So it's something that needs to be looked at, I think.
I mean, what you have to remember, Dan, is the 100 is the most important competition in the whole world, and it is vital that they keep all their players fit. And if, God forbid, Tom Lammonby was injured playing for Somerset. I mean, I don't even know who Somerset are, but if, Tom Lammonby managed to do a hamstring playing for some club called Somerset that he's never played for when he's Manchester Originals through and through, I think that would be absolutely disgraceful, to be honest. And,
There was a really good article by Mike Atherton about Will Smead.
I keep seeing these tweeted out, and it's so frustrating that the Times is behind a paywall. And so if somebody wants to lend me their Times login so I can read these occasional ones. But
well, we should do that, because it's. I mean, I'm not saying the tide's turning, but it was. I mean, he's someone with obvious, huge intelligence and interest, insight, and influence in the game. And I thought he set out extremely cogently the relationship between the pathways and the counties and these teams, which kind of float over the top, and just laid to rest really kind of clearly and calmly this sort of nonsense that Will Smead is a kind of product of the 100 who's been discovered there, and some of my Surrey friends equally irritated by the discovery of Will Jacks, who scored 100 in that competition last night and has spent 3 years knocking the ball out of the park for Surrey in the Blast. So it's interesting the different frustrations you get at different counties. At Leicester, not a county not really affected in the same way as us. They've only got 4 players who have been taken off in the draft to the competition that will not be named. But last night was the first time in the whole competition Rayan Ahmed appeared, and so of their 4 players, that's the first time they've seen any of them for the entire competition. So at least we have seen 1 or 2 of our players play some kind of starring roles and keep their eye in, as it were. But yeah, for them, pretty much everyone had been on the bench the whole time.
It was a very good. Did you see the piece about Will Smead that was in the Times? No, not in the Times. I can't remember where it was now. Perhaps it was in the Times when he was sort of responding to this sort of instant stardom type of thing, and said he was very modest about it. He said, "Well, I'm still really just a slogger, and the teams we play against know that, and they can set the."
Anthony's frozen. Just got to elaborate.
That's been censored, because we don't want the opposition to know how to bowl Will Smead.
But what they do anyway.
Ian Ward's unplug your internet, Gibbo. Go and have a look around there. I bet he's there with a pair of bolt cutters.
He made it very clear he wants to be a success in all three formats. He does not want to be pigeonholed as a white ball mercenary plying his trade around the world, which is what a lot of people have been saying about him on the back of the century he scored. And it was a very good piece. And he's aware of his limitations, and he wants to do something about them. And he is a very, very talented all-round sportsman, and has got the mental and the physical capability to turn himself into a really good all-round cricketer, and that's very much what I hope he'll do.
Cricket Takes asks, would more Somerset fans be on board with 100 if the side were Western Fire with a home game each in Taunton and Gloucester? I vote no to that one. Cricket Takes, whoever you are.
Well, I think the answer is yes. It might be no for you, but I think the majority, you can't. The 100 does have its appeal to quite a lot of people, and if there was a Western Fire, which they should have called, it's what they should have called it anyway, then yeah, I think a lot of people from Somerset and Gloucestershire would go to matches and be interested in it, especially if it had a local, a good few local players playing in the side.
Yeah, but it's back to my argument about the 100 is
I know
what they do without. They could have done it with revamping the blast and not devaluing the county. Anyway, we could be here till 11 o'clock talking about it.
We are where we are, and the 100 is not going to go away, however much we might wish it away.
One here. Do you think the 100 is going to go away? No, joking. From Scott Wilson. Should the people behind the dreadful signing of Marchant de Lange be held accountable? Does the extended contract given to Jack Brooks show a sentimentality that is holding the club back? Should we be looking at a coach upgrade to ensure the young talent doesn't go to waste? Well, I don't think Marchant de Lange was a dreadful sign. I don't think anybody thought he was a dreadful signing when we picked him up. He just hasn't really performed to the level that we'd have liked him to. Is a contract extension for Jack Brooks show a sentimentality? I don't necessarily think so.
I think Brooks is just handy as a backup player, isn't it? And he's done all right this season, to be fair. He's bowled quite well in the Championship, I thought. So I think he's handy to have around. He's not going to play every game, but it'd be risky if we were relying on Aldridge and Baker and Sale as our main backup seam bowlers.
Yeah.
Yep. Can't argue with that. Should we be looking at a coach upgrade? Well,
what does that look like?
I don't know. Is that? I think it's an international cricket captain. When you get like 100 coins, you can buy your coach. Like I don't know. You do that in cricket captain, don't you? You can upgrade your coach to make him like a better batting coach or something like that. Or you could in recent years. Anyway.
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
Oh, we should get on Twitch. International cricket captaining. I'm sure our viewing figures would be in the. They'll probably get at least 2 or 3, I'd have thought. One from Simon Hancock. Great to see Ollie Sale fit again. Where does he fit in our list of bowlers if we rank them all in order, and how many do we need to keep on? Well, he's looked like a guy who's just come back from injury. Whether that injury was from overexertion with the camcorder, not quite sure. But he looked fairly rusty in the couple of games that he's played. But he has.
He had a terrible time up at Leicester, poor bloke.
Oh yeah, the ball was just following him around, wasn't it? Yeah.
It was. Yeah, but I don't know. I haven't seen enough of Ollie Sale. I mean, I don't think he's been very well handled. I mean, they were trying to develop him as their death bowler, if you remember, back in the plague year of 2020, and it was a complete disaster. And he's an attacking bowler. And I'd rather see him, I think, in red ball cricket than white ball cricket. Running in hard and looking to take wickets. I don't think he's a containing bowler. He's not. He's got a slower ball, but that's just about the only variation he's got. And he bowls too short in white ball cricket, and he goes for loads and loads of runs. But
I mean, if you're trying to get him into the red ball side, he's at the back of a fairly long queue at the moment, isn't he? Especially with
but he's a bit older. He's a bit older than some of the than the youngsters. And I don't know. I don't think he's the answer to our T20 death bowling problems.
No, he's out of contract at the end of the year as well. So, decisions will need to be made regarding Ollie. So, and we'll finish on a lovely question from Alex Vaughan. What is your go-to cider? In recent weeks, I have been swayed from Thatcher's Gold to Thatcher's Haze. I could see Anthony mouthing the words Philistine, making a horrible, sour, pursing his lips. Thatcher's Haze is probably my favourite mass market one. I do like a bit of Devon Red as well. That's very good.
That's good cider, that is.
Yeah.
That's not, it's not so commercial as Thatcher's is good cider, but Haze and Gold are very much mass market ciders and very successful ones.
Couldn't agree more. So probably Devon Red is my favourite. Alex, Dan, what's your go-to cider?
Oh God, well I don't really drink much cider, unfortunately.
Oh no!
Come on, Dan.
Yeah. I mean, occasionally like just a cider shandy, like Thatcher's or Strongbow, but nothing particularly inventive, unfortunately. Sorry.
We'll have to get you educated on Friday night at the beer festival. If you're down, you're down.
I'll be there on Friday. Yeah.
Good stuff, Dan. We'll get you educated. On Gibbo's smiling away there. Are you allowed to drink when you're on commentary, Gibbo?
Not while I'm on commentary, but I've got Mark Davis coming, so we'll have three of us on Friday, so I will have breaks from time to time. So I will
great
be able
stuff.
to...
We'll make sure you're fully hydrated for those breaks.
There's some very good ciders on the list as well.
I haven't had a chance to look at the list yet. I'll have to do that as soon as we finish recording. And finally, the presidential recommendation, the seal of approval for the official presidential cider of the club is, Peter.
Yeah, well, Thatcher's are a sponsor, aren't they? So I tried the blood orange variant for the first time this week, which I must admit was surprisingly pleasant.
I'm still yet to try it. I'm going to have to get me.
And Lady Wanless said it had a touch of the Aperol Spritz taste to it, which is very kind of on message for this summer. So that might be a good mass market choice. When we came down last year for the Beer and Cider Festival, Wanless Junior was very excited about all of that, and you had to buy them sort of 4 pints at a time, didn't you? You queued up, and then you got these tokens, and then so he went and got himself 4 ciders, and then the first one he tasted was probably the sort of thing that Anthony would have said was a really kind of premium, excellent taste cider, and because it wasn't at all fizzy, he thought it was horrible. So he said he didn't want any more of any of that flat cider stuff, and so I found myself with a whole load of tokens for cider which I couldn't drink because I was driving back that night, and so sorry, I can't really make a recommendation beyond Thatcher's Blood Orange.
Come on then, Gibbo, apart from Battlefield.
Well, that's what I've just been drinking.
Is that on the list for Friday night?
No, it's not. No, I haven't. Sadly, I haven't got enough to market it commercially. I don't know. There are lots of good ciders there. I mean, you talked about Barney Butterfield and his Devon Red. He's got several ciders there, good Devon ciders. Harry's cider, just up the road. They're big supporters of the county club. Sheppy's, of course, and Andy Bennett, who broadcasts on BBC Radio Somerset. His family farm near Burnham, they make cider, and Bennett's cider will be there. So it depends what your taste is, but there's a very good range of ciders. I must say, I was very impressed when I saw the list. So should be a very enjoyable afternoon and evening.
Is there going to be an exclusive Battlefield bar in the commentary cabin, Gibbo, or we'll stay after hours?
I might bring just a couple of bottles down just for people to sample.
Oh, look forward to it.
Commentary gazebo. Commentary gazebo. Yeah, I had to go out onto the outfield as well to rescue my notes.
I saw that. Yeah,
because the notes were threatening to blow out onto the wicket, so I had to put the afterburners on and go out and rescue them.
You hadn't written something offensive about any of the players that were out there, and you're afraid they were going to pick them up and kind of give you a knuckle sandwich.
Definitely not.
Of course you wouldn't. Right.
We do have very interesting, when we get a fielder just in front of the commentary gazebo, we have a chat with them. It's just very, very. We have Alfie Ogborn and several of the Durham players and George Bartlett was chatting away to Mark Davis, who coached him at Millfield, and it's all.
You want to get a proper mic? You want to get a sort of a mic on like a telescopic boom arm and just kind of waft it about near the boundary edge just to get to pick up what they're saying. And on that slightly silly note, shall we call it a night? One of these days we're going to arrive at the target of our allotted 45 minutes and not wander over to an hour and 10, as we always seem to. Next Thursday, does that work for everybody?
Next Thursday, yeah. Blimey, yes.
Yeah, because we've got the members forum on the Wednesday night. The Tuesday night is the Warwickshire game, so
yeah,
we will cast our eye over the complete Royal London One Day Cup game next Thursday, or the One Day Cup campaign next Thursday. But gents, unless we've got any other business, it's starting to get dark now. Nights are drawing in. Should we knock it on the head?
Yep.
Right. Good stuff, fellas.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening, everyone. See you all next week.
See you.
Cheers, guys.
Ta-ra.
Bye.
Bye.